Hello guys, today we will be doing an Exploring Reddit episode. So yeah, let's get started.
First time posting anything, so be kind please. The TLDR is at the bottom. A little backstory. I have a learning disability that makes it hard to learn math, as well as a memory processing disorder. Short-term memory is shit. So I had to be placed in the learning impaired classes the entire time I went to school. This revenge story happened in 5th grade. Because the public school system was short on teachers at the time, I had the same terrible teacher for both 4th and 5th grade. Let's call her Mrs. Davis. Mrs. Davis was not a very pleasant woman. She ignored students who had a hard time learning the material. We were all learning disabled, glared when we asked questions, made us sit in the corner when we were annoying, and generally yelled at all of us for anything, even sneezing. My class had about 10 kids from what I can remember. We all hated her. No one of authority in the school believed us if we tried to tell on her because it was the 90s and we were slow kids. I was sitting in class trying to learn multiplication, having no clue what the hell I was doing, when my stomach started to hurt. Slow pain at first, but then got way worse very quickly. I raised my hand. May I please go to the nurse? My stomach hurts. Mrs. Davis, you look fine now, sit down. I remember I felt really weak and thought I was going to throw up. So I asked to go to the nurse again. Shot down. So I felt worse and worse for another 5 minutes. I thought, screw this. Shot up out of my seat, threw up my large lunch on her desk, wiped off my face, flipped her off and went to the nurse on my own. Turns out I got a really bad flu from my brother. My mom picked me up. I told her everything. She got very mad, like that kind of mom angry where you know shit is about to go down. My parents pulled me out of school and placed me into a smaller school with focusing on people with LDs. She told me later she yelled at the principal. Nothing happened. All I got out of that situation was this sweet story, and I'm cool with that. TLDR, I felt sick. B teacher wouldn't let me go to the nurse. Threw up on her desk, and peaced out. Back in college, I lived in this on-campus apartment that was separated from the rest of the campus. Parking was very limited over there, which leads to many issues. Early on in the year, there was one girl with a shiny new BMW that mommy and daddy just bought her who thought she was entitled to take up multiple spots when she parked, no matter how packed the parking lot was. One day when I saw her in the act, I asked her to move her car over so that I can take the spot next to her. She immediately snapped back, saying, "Mind your own fucking business, I can park however I want." Not wanting to cause any issues, I drove away. The next day, I saw her car parked the same way, and saw my opportunity. My car was older and already beat up, so I didn't care too much about the condition of it. I got out, folded my mirror in, and pulled into the spot next to her. I stayed within the lines, but got so close that she couldn't open up the driver door. A few minutes later, my roommate, who drives a massive truck and knew about what happened, sends me a picture. He had parked so close to her on the other side that now none of the doors could be opened. We then waited until she came out to her car. We could see the cars from our apartment, and boy did she throw a tantrum. The only thing funnier was watching her climb through the trunk to get into her car. After that, she made sure to never double park again. Years ago I had a neighbor who worked some weird late shift at a factory. He wasn't a bad dude, but every night he would get a ride to work from a co-worker. The first week of this arrangement, the co-worker would pull up outside the guy's house at 1 a.m. and just lay on his horn, pausing only when his hand got tired. Of course I wasn't having that shit. I had to be at work at 6:30 a.m., and often wouldn't get until 10 or 11 at night. I tried the nice civil thing, and asked my neighbor to make the guy stop. I gave this 2 days. First night, he would of course tell the guy, so night 2 it wouldn't happen. Night 2 came around, he was blaring the hillbilly doorbell even louder it seemed. It was probably my temper starting to snap that made it seem louder. Either way, I had had enough. This time I hollered out my window at him, he flipped me off as they drove past. So that morning on the way to work I stopped at Wally World and picked up a little something. The weekend passed, my neighbor didn't work weekends so my revenge had to wait. It's all I could think about over those 2 days. My neighbor left me a note with an apology. I didn't hold it against him so much as horn douche. Monday night came, and I went to bed as usual, hoping maybe the guy had a weekend to think about it and would stop. Wrong. Like clockwork he laid on that horn with everything he had. While he did that I snuck out of my house, in just my boxes, and crept up alongside his car in the blind spot. One thing I noticed in the previous incidences is that he kept his driver's side window down while he smoked. I crept up, barefooted, and stuck the canned-out horn inside his driver's window next to his head and let it go. He jumped so hard he cracked his head on the inside of his car's roof. I just stood there holding the button down, smiling at him, till the can started freezing over. I spoke really loud and said, I know you probably can't hear me, but next time it's going to be a ball bat. Have a good night. I mimed it out, complete with hitting an imaginary home run. He got the message. So, in 7th grade, I missed a lot of school due to medical and mental issues. That being said, all of my teachers were understanding. Except one. I'm not going to lie, I don't actually remember her real name, so we'll call her Ms. Bitter, MB, my 7th grade English teacher. I'm sure most of you remember or are still having to do accelerated reading or are. If not, basically, the school gave all students a test to see what reading level they are on, what book ranges they can read and how many points one would need to get to pass English. They would tell you to check out books and each book had a point system on it. This was the amount of points you receive after finishing the book and then taking a 10-question quiz to make sure you read it. I always scored 12 plus so I could read anything I wanted. Not the point, but moving on. Well, every English class was required to allow students 30 minutes to read their R books. They had to be R books specifically. If it had no points, you couldn't read it during that time block. They were also required to take the class to the library once a week to check out new books or take quizzes. Being sick and absent so much, I didn't get to go to the library often. So, I was always having to go to the library before or after school to do my shit. I didn't have the best home life, so it was hard for me to go early or stay later. Well, many times I went to class, I either didn't have a book or I had a book but it wasn't an R book. MB would go around and check every damn book every day to make sure we were doing what we were supposed to. If you didn't have it, she'd give you a warning. 3 warnings and you get detention. Needless to say, this happened to me. I was furious because MB literally had a bookshelf full of our books in her class that no one was allowed to read if we forgot our book or didn't have it because reasons, like me. MB chastised me in front of the class and even scolded me for being absent too much. She made me cry more than once. Edit. I don't understand 2 things. 1. Why she hated me, and 2. Why she wouldn't let anyone use her godforsaken books on her bookshelf. Your guess is as good as mine. After months of this, I decided to be petty because I was sick of her picking on me. At this point, she basically just expected me to not have my approved book. So, I went into her room one morning while she wasn't there, she had bus duty, and wrote down about 5 to 10 R books on her personal bookshelf that she wouldn't let us use, again, still not sure why. Then I hid them behind all the other books. After that, I went to the library during that precious hour lunch period to start my revenge. I checked out about 4 or 5 copies of the books on that shelf. I couldn't check out any more than that. Next day, I come in and we get to the point of silent reading. Here we go. I pull out one of the books I had duplicated and began to read. MB starts making her rounds to check the books. I was sitting there hoping so bad that she would do what I thought she'd do. She gets to me, I don't look at her and I can see in my peripheral vision she is looking very hard at my book. Silently, I observed her walk directly over to her bookshelf and begin to look for what I assume was the book she thought I took so I wouldn't get in trouble again. I could see the anger in her face when she couldn't find it. MB fast walks over to me and with her everlasting need to torture and embarrass me, she grabs my book pretty forcibly and starts accusing me of taking a book without permission and that I would be getting another warning and detention for stealing from her. I just sat there calmly letting her finish. Then I said, MB, that book is from the library, not your bookshelf. You are mistaken. She disagrees again and starts to head to her desk for the write-up. I turn and I say, would you please look on the inside? It clearly shows where it belongs to the library with the checkout list and everything. Has my name right on it. She did, thinking she would get me for lying too. Well, I saw her face get bright red and slowly comes over to give it back. She didn't apologize or anything. In fact, I think it made her hate me more. I was vindicated, but this wasn't enough for me. Day after day, I'd bring another duplicate book and each time she would stomp over to her shelf, not finding her copy, looking at me with 7 hells fury. Each time, I'd show her the library stamp when she'd approach to accuse again. This went on for about 2 weeks. I honestly think I made her feel crazy and so irritated that she couldn't pin anything on me. I also came in again one day, in the morning, and put all her books back in place as if they were there all along. I got my R points by just reading the duplicate books and passed with an A. I still don't know why she hated me so much, but for about 2 weeks, I enjoyed watching her crumble every day and not being able to punish me for shit. Not the most elaborate of petty revenges, but I loved it.
That was all I had for you guys today. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. If you liked the video, then please give it a thumbs up, and if you didn't, then give it a thumbs down. Until next time, see you all later.